All right, so welcome back into the Metaverse. Today we're going to jump into Galaverse Day 2 and what happened and maybe how all of this is going to affect kind of the future of entertainment. I think this is a big one, probably the biggest announcement I would claim in the last maybe 12 months, even more so than what we've seen with Sandbox, all that. We're going to break it all down for you guys. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Let's get into it today, and that, of course, is Galaverse happening in Malta. Day 2 is upon us, and they seem to be upping the ante each day on what's getting released. And of course, today was no different, and it's really kind of playing out, I think, in a very good way. Just taking a look quickly at their Twitter stream, you can kind of get a little bit of a theme of what Galaverse looks like. Let me kind of expand that for you guys. You can kind of get a frame of I think the brevity of what they're trying to do as not only a group, but also as an industry pioneer on the evolution of what entertainment is going to be and what it's going to look like in blockchain. So well attended. There's, of course, Bitbender. A lot happening on the game releases, a ton happening in terms of new platforms and what the evolution might look like. So I do think there's a lot in the sense of how Gala is taking up a notch. Now, there are some things that I am concerned with, and of course, not necessarily worried about, but I look at anything that is this innovative. And when you open up an event like Galaverse and you really start to show what's behind the curtain, it gains the attention, and I've talked about this before, it gains the attention of a lot of people. Now, this is going to gain the attention of all the big players. It's going to gain the attention, I think, of a lot of artists and kind of the future, including music executives, and what this whole blockchain aspect might look like when it comes to film, music, gaming, all these kind of things. Gala is the only project I know that has been able to really bridge all three. Now, we've talked about many metaverse projects here on this show that they jump in and they try to do so much in so many different areas. And I'm always critical of those kinds of projects because I feel like sometimes you just have to focus. And when you step back from Gala and really kind of zone in on what they are focused on, it really is singular. And that is entertainment. Entertainment as a whole, whether it's gaming entertainment, music entertainment, film entertainment. They've got their their I's dotted, their T's crossed, and I think this is going to be a good one to kind of break down in essence of what they've introduced. Of course, a couple of things introducing their Galaverse was their Champions Arena game. Again, I think this is a cool thing in the sense that we see more and more game scenarios. So it is definitely where they're really pushing the envelope in terms of game releases. And still to this point, and I always kind of look at this, is can they keep up this pace of innovation? Remember, last Galaverse we saw last November, lots happened in really 6 months. And I think this is no different. I think the next 6 months is going to be the interesting one because the fall we'll start to see a little bit of recovery in the markets. And I think we're going to see a lot happening in the way of new partnerships and new brand deals with Gala, which I think will really be the next, kind of big thing for them. So lots happening there. Let me kind of jump to Champions Arena just to give you guys a little bit of a visual of this. There was quite a bit there. You can kind of see just in general on graphics, always stellar, doing a great job on what they are doing. Tons of stuff too. Great stuff here to JCRE creator. So I think, again, I don't know if this game is going to be one that will really break out like maybe a Grid or some of the others that are out there, but I feel like the fact that they're really kind of getting into this, sorry for the sound there, guys. The fact that they're really getting into a lot of diversity in gaming, to me, is, I think, critical. And it's also a very important aspect because if you're a gaming house or you're an entertainment house in this aspect, you really need to cover your bases in terms of the kind of games that you are offering. Another one that they've jumped into, this is just kind of showing you the mobile aspect of it. We'll play a little bit there. Turn this down just a little bit. You can kind of see, and I think mobile is going to be one of the future tracks that Gala really kind of jumps into because mobile, and I've talked about this yesterday, is that mobile is going to be very critical and very important in the growth of the overall industry as a whole. And I think this is the thing that we have to be watching, is the more that we start to see mobile integration into gaming, the more we're going to see adoption. And adoption curves, to me, is one of the key things in blockchain gaming that we have to see. Remember, right now we're still in the very early days of blockchain gaming. And in fact, when you look around and you think about Sandbox or Illuvium or Axie, and you kind of look at the bigger gameplay that's happening out there, let's don't get into some of the, the bigger ones out there. But if you look at some of the leaders that are really kind of taking it to the next level, I think the key here will be mobile is got to be one of the forefronts of development. So I do hope that they continue on in this direction for sure. Here's another thing, calling all sports fans. Freestyle Football 2 is coming to Gala Games. This was just a matter of time. I think we're going to see more and more of this in the soccer side of things, because it is such a popular aspect overall. I think just in the terms of gaming sequences of sports, of course, if you think about Madden and just the evolution of what we've seen with EA and what they've been able to bring to the game or to the table in terms of sports game, I think this is something that is just one of the other, jewels in the crown that Gala needs to kind of check off the list, and making sure that they really kind of go down that track. Obviously, their partnership here with Pirates of the Caribbean, this will be interesting too. Again, this gets back into how far into partnership deals will Gala take it? What kind of deals are really brewing? I think that between now and the next Gala, maybe over the summer, because there's so much happening in entertainment in the summer months with all the big blockbusters. We see a lot happening in the music scene. And of course, you get into a lot of, the games and of course, the tournaments and things of that nature really start to pick up in the fall. I think this is going to be a key timing scenario before we see them kind of jumping into the next. Let's hear some more footage. This was done by On-Chain Gaming. If you guys haven't checked his channel out, I think he's one of the better gaming guys out there that really breaks down games and kind of what's happening. And he is a big fan of overall, I think, of Gala. They're pulling, of course, great footage. This is a lot of first scene footage there at Galaverse Day 2. So good stuff here with JoyCity. And I'll kind of scan through a little bit. And then you can kind of see a little bit of the gameplay. Looks great trailers too. Good graphics. Again, very well done. Their designer team cannot be undershadowed, because this is something that I think is an everlasting thing with Gala. Almost every game that I've seen them put out, almost every kind of element that they've done in the entertainment side is hands down some of the best art, graphics, and production that I've seen in all of the kind of crypto games that we interview and talk about here on this show all the time. Gala was still put right there at the top of the list in terms of overall. They also announced Forever Winter. This is a first-player shooter by Fundog Studios. More info coming soon on this one. There's a little bit of footage here, again, by On-Chain Gaming right here. There's a lot, if you look at just kind of the techno dystopian feel of what this one's going to look like. Again, another great selection. The fact that they're working up with some external studios, and I think that's one of the bigger ways that Gala has been able to really expand their gaming empire, is really kind of picking these up-and-coming indie studios that are really kind of blowing up and having a great opportunity to do stuff like this right here. So this, of course, is on Unreal Engine. And you can tell, I mean, obviously the graphics are pretty amazing here. So has a lot of that, kind of that Matrix feel, definitely, for sure. And I think this is just another expectation that we kind of somewhat expect out of Gala today. And I think they keep raising the bar, though, a little bit each time. I'm just kind of curious what they're really going to succeed with, because there's going to be a few of these games that don't really break out and become fan favorites. And there's going to be a couple of these, maybe a handful, that do break out and maybe start to really create the path for blockchain gaming as a whole, especially as we see it start to invade traditional gaming ecosystems and maybe that player community that we haven't necessarily seen mass adoption yet on. So could be some of these games that are potentially in play for Gala, and a lot's happening. Their website, of course, if you guys goes to app.gala.games, you'll get a chance to see all of their stuff here. You can kind of see Miranda, still one of my favorite right here. This was announced yesterday with Battlestar Galactica, which was Project Saturn. Town Crush, big game, very well played. I think this one right here is still undersold. Grid is going to be huge. So lots happening. Not all the new games are there yet. So when you do go to their website, be aware. I think that it's going to get a lot of updates here in the next few weeks for sure. Now, what is the big news that is going to shift the dynamic of how blockchain is integrated into everyday life? You know, this is something that I talk about often, is how is utility truly going to make it into something that an average person would get to experience? Well, they announced it, and it is something that is, of course, called Gala Music. And I want to kind of cut to a clip here, and I'm going to let you kind of listen to a little about what they're talking about. This is an entirely new platform that is plugged into Spotify and Tidal, and the integration is very interesting. Let's cut to this.
Okay, so you are looking at a design preview of the Gala Music platform. This is what we're actually building out. This is the new site. This is your trends page. Anyone logged in or not logged in can see this. You're seeing every NFT on the platform, how it's doing, where its popularity is, how many listens it's getting. And when we're talking about listens, it's not just on the Gala Music platform. This also incorporates Spotify, Tidal, YouTube, other digital streaming platforms. As you support your artist, you buy their NFTs and you help them out, you're actually going to be sharing rewards together. This is your profile page. This is where you're actually connecting, collecting, able to engage with followers, friends. You see achievements here. These are badges, special tokens that you get for being an early supporter or one of the best supporters. We want to make sure we are rewarding all of our players, especially the early adopters. Going over now to the dashboard, this is the central collection point of Gala Music. You can see your achievements, your artist support, the rewards that you've earned, and you can get that on a daily breakdown. This is all about your collection, what you're...
All right, so I want to break out a couple of things here. Big shout out again to On-Chain Gaming for that, because he streamed for what looked to be about 2 hours on this part of the conference. So excellent stuff from On-Chain Gaming in terms of on-site reporting. And I think the key here with what they're trying to do is really integrate the emerging artist. And this is something that I think is a key thing. Now, sure, we've seen this in SoundCloud, and to a certain extent, we've seen it with Spotify, but in the essence of really connecting artists to their fans and being able to create revenue centers that are outside of just the art itself has not been done. And that, I think, is the key here with the platform that Gala Music is presenting. The fact that they're opening up a true fan connectivity and the ability to integrate NFTs, the ability to integrate merch, all the elements of these super fan connection points, to me, could be the evolution of the next generation music business. And that, to me, is huge. And if you think about this for just a second, you know, when you look at the music industry and you kind of understand who the big power players are, really you could kind of draw down to about 250, maybe to 500 artists that kind of control the entire music industry. Rap, pop, you name the genre, the likelihood is that you could probably pick out the top 10, 20 artists in each one of those. The problem is that there is so much innovation that's happening in creativity right now, just because the tools have ramped up, technology is advanced, all those kind of things that unfortunately is not uncovering the evolution of what those artists will be. So I think what we're going to be dealing with, and this has already happened on the internet, we've seen this in YouTube, of creating millions of artists now instead of hundreds that have millions, if not tens of millions of fans that kind of create this. And I think the fact that you've got a platform like Gala that's moving in this direction, I don't want to say that they feel like the next YouTube for music, but what they're trying to do from a blockchain integration, the discovery element for new artists, and the whole aspect around token or listen and earn, view and earn, I think this is a project that could be resetting the future of how technology, music, and entertainment is going to be achieved in the next few years. So make sure to like the video. I know you guys are big Gala fans, but we always get good feedback, understand, is it the kind of stuff you want to see here on Metaverse Insider? And just from our network in general, how much of a breakdown do you want to see? We will be giving away some sentiment data here in a little bit. We've got one more clip to play. Also, I want to get your questions. So drop them in the sidebar. We'll try to get to as much as we can here on this live. This is a live show that we do. Occasionally, we'll do these back-to-backs. Now, we do have a big live show coming up today at 3 o'clock that is going to be breaking down the crypto bill recommendation and proposal by Cynthia Loomis and Senator Gillibrand, which is going to be a breakdown I think you guys don't want to miss. So make sure to stay around for that one. We're going to be doing the live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time for that one, so don't want to miss that one. But again, don't forget to get your questions in here, like, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get over to this other clip that really kind of gets into it, and then we'll break down pricing of where Gala has been over the past 24 hours, and also some of the things from a sentiment standpoint as well. Now, this was when they got into some Q&A on Gala Music, the platform, but also how they were going to integrate in with artists. And there's some very interesting points that they talk about here. Let me cut to this video.
Token yesterday. Can you talk more about when it will launch and how it will be distributed? Sure. So we're currently working with our partners on the initial token up, getting ready for the exchange listing and that initial token allocation. Once that token is listed live on exchanges, we are going to be rolling out the music node software ahead of the full ecosystem going live.
Now, I want to just pause there for a second because some of you may not be aware. G Music is going to be the token. The music node software works a lot like the rest of their node ecosystem, which, remember, that's one of the biggest reasons and ways that Gala earns revenue. So let's jump back to the video real quick.
Fall. So that's your sequence. Exchange listing, node, system goes live. When we get a little closer to the release date, we're going to detail out the requirements a little bit deeper. But in general, node operators who run their software for a daily time requirement will be receiving a portion of that menu. We'll give you a lot more detail.
Okay, so I want to pause it there and talk a little bit about the node aspect of this. Now, based on the way he's talking about the release, it feels like it's a little bit early. Remember, this was their initial dashboard for Gala Music, what it was going to look like. Obviously, it was fairly well built out. I was impressed that they were that far along. But the node architecture, I think, is going to be very key on being able to advance it. And it has been in the gaming side of things. We've seen that on all sorts of rollouts with Gala, and it's very important, but he doesn't necessarily pinpoint in on when this could happen. Now, could it happen in 2022? This would be huge for Gala's token price, I think, overall, and of course, launching the G Music token itself.
Coming up in the next few weeks. Once that full ecosystem is live, there will be a daily distribution of the Gala Music token, as you just saw on the dashboard.
All right, so he's talking about daily distribution of tokens. This is talking about the whole play to earn kind of scenario. When I say play to earn, meaning play music to earn. And that is one of the uniqueness elements that I think within the Gala platform that could replace. Now, here's a question I have, is when you have a project like Gala that is essentially pioneering and innovating at how do you say this? At a speed in which I think a lot of tech companies don't necessarily go, even today. And if you think about just Spotify, Tidal, I wouldn't necessarily call Tidal a tech company. I'd call them more of an artist deal maker. Spotify, to a certain extent, maybe has not been on the forefront of tech innovation, but they were a few years back. Now, they will have to really start to accelerate their knowledge in blockchain if they plan, meaning Spotify, plan to try to come to market with something somewhat competitive. Because here's the thing to me, is if Spotify becomes the home base for all of the existing 500 to 1,000 leading artists, where are all these new artists going to evolve to? I think it may be to platforms like Gala. And with that being the case, essentially Gala is in the farming process of developing a whole new innovation of around where new artists will be able to kind of hone their art, really start to accelerate, get their fan base going, all those kind of things, and maybe never make the leap to Tidal or Spotify. So there's some very interesting things that they talk about here. Let's continue on here.
The distribution is based on plays on and off platform. Tidal, Spotify is off platform. It's weighted towards on platform. We want folks listening on Gala Music. We want you to be bringing people to Gala Music. So one day we are the biggest destination for music on the web. Right?
Okay, now he just gave away something there that I thought was a little interesting. And that is, if your strategy is to suck users from Tidal and Spotify, which is essentially what they're going to be doing, they're going to suck users from there. But at the same time, maybe there is some sort of deal making that's in the backs, kind of the back rooms that helps this ecosystem grow. I'm curious how they're going to really bring this together. And at some point, you're going to get to a scenario, I think, where they do become foes with the industry at large as it is known today. But I think that is all changing. And whether or not iTunes, Tidal, YouTube Music, or Spotify really take kind of what they're doing and amp it up will be a big question. And I think they're trying to become the #1 music platform.
Right now we play with Spotify and Tidal because we need to bridge worlds.
Noticed he said we play with Spotify and Tidal. So because we need to bridge worlds. And again, this goes back to, I'm surprised that he mentioned these things on stage, because this is a little bit, in my opinion, starting to show your hand. I don't know if these guys, when you think about Spotify, Tidal, the size of some of these companies, if they really look at a Gala Music as even a threat right now. But it'll be interesting to watch. A couple more comments, and then we'll try to jump into some sentiment and take some questions for you guys.
This is going to reward both holders of the NFTs as well as the node operators who stream them, and that will be for all of the player node operators, and when we roll out fan nodes, we'll take care of it.
This is a question I hear all the time. Will there be any other utility for music NFTs other than just the rewards?
I'm going to let Alex take this one.
All right, so as Lane mentioned, we're trying to support artists' career across the board, right? With other partners, and we want to grow them into successful artists with successful careers, and we want those fans to be rewarded as well. So there will be experiential and exclusive perks that include access to shows, meet and greets, exclusive merch, anything that...
All right, so I don't want to, chop up too much of this, but what she gets into is really the breakdown that I think is the real golden nugget of what Gala is. And that is the next evolution of artist connection and distribution. And the fact that they're really leveraging in on blockchain and the whole idea around NFTs and the use case of what that might be for artists and entertainers, to me, gives them a new look. Because if you think about the music industry, in the past, it was agents and studio deals and label deals, and you had to give up a lot as an artist. And you guys know, you've probably seen and heard, watched many movies about this, is that a lot of these artists really don't end up even owning their own content. And it's an ongoing thing. I've looked at this. If you look at Michael Jackson and how much he owns, if you looked at even Taylor Swift, who had a hard time getting her own library, all those kind of scenarios, I think they're putting back in the hands of these emerging artists, and they're doing it through a variety of veins of distribution and also revenue generating potential opportunities. So a lot happening in Gala. Right now, I think music, gaming, and film, which they didn't really reveal too much about film. It was talked about yesterday, but I think this is going to be huge for Gala, and I am a big, big proponent of where this project and where this company is going. As I said yesterday, one of the key things I'm always worried about is when you have someone who's innovating at speed like they are, they become either a target for acquisition or they become a target for major players to jump into the space. Now, Gala, I think, could take on major players and win just because of their indie kind of approach. And this has been done in tech before many times over, so it's not something that I don't anticipate. And I think the big difference here is that the learning curve for blockchain for old school Web 2 companies is so much that it could slow them down to give companies and projects like Gala the air that they need to really kind of blow into this market and position. Last couple of things here, and then we'll get to questions. Gala price, just following here over the last day, you saw the big run up here yesterday. And as I said, we were planning on buying some, and I missed my top. I probably should have done a little bit of a swing trade, but as I said, and we anticipated this, because if you look at our sentiment data, what we reported on yesterday, let me jump over here to Gala real quick. And this was the scenario that we had indicated yesterday on the CPI, is that we started to see sentiment and an AMP intersect. It's rare that you see that, and it did show up on the chart, ended up being exactly what we anticipated, which was a nice little lift. Even though Gala, I think, still is a very strong buy in and around that 8-cent range, which is where it's kind of hovering right now. We're going to be watching this again. We'll drop more sentiment tomorrow on Gala. We'll continue. I think day 3 is going to be very interesting because they are going virtual on day 3. And remember, they have a special announcement. My prediction is, remember, maybe someone couldn't make it to Malta for day 3, and they knew that enough in advance to open up a live stream, as opposed to what we're seeing here of a lot of the people that were there at the event where they did not live stream. Maybe they're saving the best for last, but to a much larger audience, and that is the more live stream worldwide global audience. Just an idea. If I was trying to prop it up that way, I might try that to go that route for promotion. Let's jump into questions, man. You guys got a bunch here. Paintball, not eventual for us, but $18 billion would put Gala at $2.60. Oof. Man, that is at 8 cents right there, my friend. That is a big play. I can't really say that I necessarily think we'll go there, but think about the size of gaming, film, and music, and someone that has the balls enough to go after all 3. And I think Gala's right there in the center. Grist for the Lau. There are far more tokens when they pumped last time, so we need a ton more buyers to even get back to ATH. I think, remember, when you look at the all-time here, let me jump to the all-time. A lot of this pump that you saw back in October last year, it was really Metaverse pump. So don't overthink this too much. We are in a very down period of time right now. This is when you need to build, and this is, I think, is what Gala is doing, is they're putting their head down, they're building, they're innovating, and they're keeping out there in the front of the ecosystem. So there's a lot yet to happen. Key here is, remember, I talk about it all the time, when blood is in the water, that's when millionaires are made. Let's go to a poll real quick, because I know we got some stuff here. All right, let's take a look here. Most exciting Gala Day 2. All right, music platform reveal, easy winner there. But Freestyle Football, number 2 right there at 13%. The fact that, games are still very interested, but the music platform is, I think, it's just a groundbreaking innovation. I think is going to be one that everybody has to deal with in the future, much like how everyone had to deal with YouTube, and Google ended up buying it. G account, how will G Music token affect the Gala token? That is a very good question. We are going to try to get Gala on to talk about this in the coming weeks to really break this down, because I think it's still a ways out. I don't necessarily know that they've fully vetted out. I'm sure they've got a good roadmap, but as you guys know, in development, when you are developing at a speed in which they are iterating, there's a lot of things that change. So I'm not sure. Axie has done this, Sandbox has done this. Everybody that is developing at speed will do this. So I don't know necessarily how the breakout will be, but we'll definitely find out for you. Gala token to $1 next bull run. That's a good one. Their all-time high, if you go way back here, was at 71 cents. But I would say their realistic was around 53. I'm very bullish that they will easily get back to that 53 if I'm a long-term holder. And when I say long-term, meaning 1 to 5 years. And this could be one of those long-term holds for me. But again, as I said, always, first of all, not financial advice. We do these market movers. It's very simple. We'll break down data, give you guys some insights, give you some sentiment analysis, give you a lot of news. But main thing here, guys, you got to do your own research. One thing that I'm looking at, though, is this. is that Gala is going to make enough waves out there that it's going to draw attention. I mentioned this earlier. That's the only thing that will slow them down, is if we start to see some competition moving into space. Alan, let's get to it. Gala token of $1. Yes. So we talked about that. Snoop Dogg, Dashiell, Snoop Dogg will string, what is here? Will string along a wide array of, yes, of course. He's going to bring in a lot of artists, I think, just in all aspects, because he's so loved in the industry. You know, he's just one of those people that people like to be around. He crosses over. There's no boundaries. There's no race. There's nothing with Snoop Dogg. He just is. And I think that's the kind of person and poster child person you want to have on the front of what you're doing. And I think he is a good selection for it, for sure. Miguel, bill coming up today. Do you think they'll try to kill privacy coins, protocols, and projects? Very interesting. We're going to do the live stream on this at 3 o'clock and break this down. We have a lot of very interesting stuff and some leaked documents that will show you guys on where that's going. Jay, Galaverse is the biggest thing for Gala, yet their main spokesperson, COO Sarah Bucks, was not there in person. Might be doing some deals, or maybe she's doing something with this live stream for day 3. You're right, Bucks wasn't there. We've had her on the show before. Make sure and check the video out. She's a brilliant lady, I think, in the sector, and she understands the entertainment business. So I wouldn't necessarily say anything bad there. All right, so young video. Galaverse will be the new E3. Very good possibility. I mean, they're definitely moving in that direction. Charlie, Galaverse equals E3. I like it. Yeah, you guys are right on you guys are thinking the same stuff, drinking the same Kool-Aid out there. I like it. Just, okay, Alds, just a letdown that we were not on the bull market. Gala might have pumped to new all-time high with these news. Think about this for a second. Just think about this for a second. They're in building mode right now. They need to put the partner deals together. You don't want to drop that kind of stuff, which I think you need the framework, the rails, as I talk about often. You need that in place when the markets are, underrunning like what we are right now. And then when you link in and ink in all these major partnerships, deals, and innovations in the platform itself, that's the time to drop it. True 49er for life. Not sure why Gallon doesn't pump a little bit better. They have so much going on. Listen, right now, everything is suppressed, guys. Don't think and overthink these markets too much. We are going to continue to see some pressure here, I think, from an overall aspect. Remember, we still have a lot of economic issues hitting us. We've got a recession potentially facing us right in the face, potentially some more numbers in terms of not only pricing in general, when you think about just prices to the American consumer and the worldwide consumer, but also inflation as a whole. Remember, Europe is underwater on inflation. There's a lot happening on the economic stage that when we step into an area like Galaverse, we kind of forget for a minute, because entertainment, it's designed to take you away from these things. And that's a good thing, but also a reality of stepping back into that. You're in the crypto space overall, so be looking. Easy, Gala going to 1? I don't think so. Could it go if we see a massive hit or some kind of black swan event? Well, there's a lot of things that could get damaged on something like that, but I don't necessarily see it. Bottom for Gala, I feel like is still kind of hovering around that 5 to 7 cent range. So they're pretty close. And if you look at a long-term hold here, this is one of those that, for me, again, not financial advice, but for me, I look at Gala as long-term hold until there's a new big player in the market, or Gala leads the pack out and becomes the new titan of where all this is going. Dean's market is significantly suppressed, yet to come for Gala to pump. Updating in the bull market is easy to 10x for sure. Something we talk about on the channel all the time. Love to get you guys' insights as well. Make sure and, of course, subscribe to our other channel. If you're listening on the podcast side, jump over to TechPath Crypto. Just search that on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you might be listening to your podcast. You can get on both of those. But if you're on either one of those shows, make sure and jump over to the YouTube channel, because this is where we're going to break down all the analysis, give you the insights, give you our sentiment data, do all of the hard work that you guys don't have to go out and spend, 15, 20 hours a day. Essentially, if you think about the research team that we have here at our studio, we're probably putting 15 to 20 hours of research culminated into all of these shows. So we've wrapped up a lot of stuff that for you, if you had to go out and do it by yourself, you literally have to be spending an entire day just to wrap all this stuff in. We try to give it to you fast in about 20 to 30 minutes in a live stream. So hopefully this is speeding up your day. Hit subscribe right now. That's the thing we want you to do. Jump on the channel. Make sure to get in here. And of course, if you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.